Good evening, everybody, once again. We welcome you all to this session on Collins Foundation and Foundation Plus, a new course for nursery and KG. Before we introduce the resource person for the day, let's understand some ground rules so that we all are on the same page. We all shall be muted throughout the session. And if you wish to participate in the session, there are two ways. One, you can simply put in your queries in the chat box. Number two, you can raise your hand and we shall unmute you and so that you can participate. Now, let me introduce the resource person for the day, Dr. Elaine Higgleton. Dr. Elaine has more than 30 years of experience in dictionary, reference, and educational publishing and has held various roles during her career. She has the experience of teaching English as a foreign language at secondary school level, and first-year university level, having taught in the Sorbonne in Paris. In the course of her career in publishing, she has held roles as a lexicographer on a range of dictionaries, including dictionaries, grammar, and other reference materials for ELT. Now, I would like to request Dr. Elaine to take the session forward. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Sumit, and thank you very much, everybody, for joining us this evening. As Sumit said, please use the chat box and the Q&A box to make a note of any questions that you would like me to answer at the end of the presentation. I'm going to be talking this afternoon about the new Foundation and Foundation Plus materials that have recently been published by Collins. These are new materials for students in the first years of school, so in nursery and in kindergarten. And I'm going to, this afternoon, be giving you a short summary, a short introduction to the key components and key features of this brand new course. So if you are interested, please go and watch this video on YouTube, given by Arabella Cooperman, who is one of our contributors to the course. Arabella is an early years specialist. She's based in South Africa. She has a lot of experience of early years teaching in bilingual settings, so children who may speak one language at home, Zulu perhaps, or Sesotho, and who are learning through English as a medium of instruction. And she's very experienced in how to get these children who may be aged 3 or 3.5 up to speed, learning through English in a second language environment. So please go and watch that video. And she discusses in this video the ethos, the pedagogy behind the Foundation and Foundation Plus course. And she's a real expert, so please go and watch that video. Very simply, the Foundation and Foundation Plus course provides a 2-year kindergarten and nursery program for use in international schools. Schools can opt to use only one subject or can opt to use 2 or all 3 subjects for a more comprehensive package. English and maths are core, and the science course provides an introduction to topic work. It's not really science, it's much more topic-based, that allows students to develop skills such as looking at something, describing it, drawing it, all of which are encompassed as working like a scientist, but within the context of practicing and developing English language skills. A quick summary of the components. So for English, for each of terms 1, 2, and 3 for Foundation and Foundation Plus, we have an activity book and a reading anthology. So there's an activity book and a reading anthology for each term, and for each year there is a fully comprehensive teacher's guide. And then for maths and science, we have a reading anthology for each year and an activity book for each term. And again, a teacher's guide for each school year. And each course follows a very clear structure. There are 15 units of learning for each level, 5 units of learning for each term, and each unit of learning takes approximately 2 weeks of work. And we've based this on what teachers told us when we were doing our market research, that they do English every day, that in India you do maths every day, and that you do environmental science or topic work at least 2 or 3 days a week, sometimes more. The courses are underpinned by shared topics that link things together. So when you're doing topic 6, food, then we're looking at corresponding topics in science, and we're using vocabulary from food within our numbers and our counting in maths. So there are underlying topics that draw everything together. Now, we put the materials together using a team of authors who all work in international markets, who all produce materials for markets outside of the UK. Arabella Cooperman, I've already mentioned, she's been a preschool teacher and head teacher in South Africa. And her real area of expertise is multilingual education and how to get young children learning through English and through other languages, particularly in bilingual classrooms. We've also worked with Fiona, who has developed all of the materials for English. And Fiona, again, is also extremely experienced in developing materials in international markets. And Fiona's worked on English and science for us in the Foundation and Foundation Plus. And we've also worked with Peter Clark, who has developed maths materials for a wide range of markets for Collins for very many years now. And Peter has a lot of experience as well of developing materials in international markets. And very importantly, we put together an international review panel of teachers from around the world who reviewed the learning objectives, who reviewed the materials that we developed, and who gave us a lot of feedback. Some teachers tried things out in their classrooms, other teachers tried things out with their colleagues. Everybody gave us a lot of very valuable feedback through the 18 months of development that the materials went through. And I'd like to thank, particularly at this point, the schools and the teachers in India, Manthan School in Hyderabad, Prometheus School in Noida, Pragyanam in Gurugram, Solitaire Global School in Hyderabad, and the Calcutta International School in Kolkata. All of the teachers in all of these schools who gave us some really valuable feedback as part of our international review panel. So thank you very much to all of these teachers, and welcome to any of these fabulous teachers who may be joining me this afternoon and joining us this afternoon for this workshop. Thank you very much indeed to everybody in India who helped with the development of the materials. Extremely valuable feedback. So I've got a separate webinar tomorrow looking in more detail at how we developed the scope and sequence and the learning objectives for the courses. But just to give you a summary here, what we've put together is designed to be a 2-year course that leads to Cambridge Stage 1. So in the visits that I've done to India over the many years that I've been visiting India, not recently, of course, but before then, before COVID, one of the things that teachers have told us is that they find Cambridge Stage 1 quite hard for many of their students in their upper kindergarten classes. So the aim of Foundation and Foundation Plus is to give you a 2-year progression that leads very clearly and very obviously and very explicitly to Cambridge Stage 1. And it's also designed, Foundation and Foundation Plus are also designed to provide a structure and materials to support those schools that follow PYP in early years, that follow the IB primary years program. Please ignore this messaging on the cover. This is because this messaging is here because the course is used in a wide range of markets internationally. So from Brazil and Chile right over to Zambia, including the Middle East and including India. This messaging is not for you in India. Please ignore this. We work back when we're thinking about how to use Foundation and Foundation Plus in India. We work back from when you start Stage 1. So if you start Cambridge Stage 1 in UKG, then you would do Foundation in nursery when children are 3 or 3.5 years old. You would do Foundation Plus in lower kindergarten when children are 4, 4.5 years old, so that Foundation and Foundation Plus lead directly to Cambridge Stage 1. So please ignore that on the cover. It's not appropriate for you in India. You need to start Foundation 2 years before your students will start Cambridge Stage 1. And we've tried to provide a very, very clear progression. I don't know enough about the new Cambridge early years material. I keep asking the sales guys to try and get hold of the curriculum for me. Cambridge won't share it with me. I don't understand why Cambridge have done it the way they've done it, but ignoring the Cambridge, the Collins provides you a very clear progression. Foundation in nursery, Foundation Plus in LKG, Stage 1 in UKG, Stage 2 in Grade 2. It should be seamless and give you everything you need. Now, I don't know what Cambridge have done. This is all from the Cambridge public materials about their early years, but they say schools have an option now to either do EY1, what they call EY1, EY2, or Stage 1, or EY1, EY2, and EY3. But Cambridge themselves do stay on their own website that if schools take EY3, students may need additional support and experience with thinking and working mathematically, thinking and working scientifically, science in context, and links between reading and writing. And if you come tomorrow, you will see that we have fully covered all of these concepts in Foundation and Foundation Plus. So Collins provides a completely seamless progression to Cambridge Stage 1. And we developed the progression by looking at the prior learnings that Cambridge published themselves in their primary frameworks for English and maths. Our authors assessed these learnings critically, which is really important. Come along tomorrow if you want to find out more about why we did that. And we looked at the Stage 1 framework for science. We reviewed what this gave us against the NEP in India, the UK Early Years Framework, the IBPYP, and other international KG curricula. And of course, we spoke to our teachers on our review panel about what they were doing, what they needed, and what this gave us. And we ended up with some learning objectives across Foundation and Foundation Plus. And this structure underpins the course. And as I say, there's a lot more about this tomorrow. And then within the teacher's guide, you can see very clearly set out all of the learning objectives within each level. So within Foundation and Foundation Plus by unit. Now, the approach that we've taken in this course is to walk the fine line between teachers and schools that like something a little bit more formal, a little bit more structured, but the internationally accepted best practice, which is that KG students live their learning. They learn through doing, through discovery, through experience and play. And we as teachers know that the kindergarten classroom can appear quite chaotic when looking at it from the outside. But it's very important that we keep the age and developmental stage of the child at the heart as they start to learn and to engage with learning. So we've tried to, in the course, embrace the ethos that KG students live their learning through play, discovery, doing, and experience. And this is a slide from your NEP, which I'm sure you'll be very familiar with, your National Education Policy, which says learning in formative years needs to be play-based and discovery-based. And this course delivers that requirement, the requirements set out in the NEP. So you'll find lots of guidance on how to do this in the teacher's guide, because we know it can be a scary and difficult thing for teachers to provide. And you'll see that we flag up that you might need a sense of humour and some patience. So lots of guidance through the teacher's guide to deliver experiential learning. Children learn through discovery, opportunity, doing, with a consistent learning session structure that supports teachers and teaching assistants and those schools that like something a little bit more formal, or where the teachers and teaching assistants need a little bit of support in understanding how play delivers learning, with lots of opportunities to practice, recycle, revisit learnings and skills in different contexts. The There is a very, very clear structure outlined in the teacher's guide for you that explains exactly how you get started with teaching, how to teach the concepts in a child-centered learning way, and then with lots of advice on how to allow, how to facilitate, how to enable child-centered and child-led learning in the classroom. These are just some bits from the various teachers' guides. You can see we talk about counting, collection, stations, painting and drawing, how to use imaginative play, how to use music, and outdoor play that may be adult-led. These are just some snippets from the maths teacher's guide. And you can see that we are getting children to use their bodies. And these two excerpts are from English, where you can see you, the teacher, may well write a large letter S on the board, but we're going to get children to make that shape using their bodies. So they're learning through experience. We're not asking them to copy. We'll do that later. But their first engagement with the shape of the letter is through their body. So they're playing. And then you can see that even in counting in foundation, in Unit 1, we're not counting things. We're counting sounds. We're clapping. We're stamping. We're singing songs. And we are learning to count through actually doing something, playing in the classroom. As you would expect, the teacher's guides, as well as giving all of the advice that you need on delivering experiential learning, on how to facilitate that in the classroom, also talks about the pedagogy and the underlying theory of teaching maths to very young children who may be 3. So the concrete pictorial abstract approach, which Peter Clark uses in the maths materials. And of course, thinking, reasoning, working mathematically as a requirement of Cambridge, how to be doing that in the kindergarten classroom. Guidance on teaching key maths concepts in the kindergarten classroom. And then, as you would expect in the English teacher's guide, how to engage with phonics, what it is, how to do it, how to start to deliver this through experiential learning in the kindergarten English classroom. And of course, science, how we do science in context, which is, of course, very experience-based, very experiment-based, very life-based. So looking at things, observing things, seeing what happens when we jump in a puddle, seeing what happens when we put a seed in a pot of earth and water it every day on our windowsill. If we take a quick look now at some of the materials, some of the content in the books, let's look first of all at the reading guides, the reading anthologies. So there is one reading anthology for each term for English, because naturally engaging with early literacy skills fully underpins learning English. And there is a reading anthology for each year for each of maths and science, because English learning goes hand in hand with learning science and maths and supports it and is a very important part of it, but it's part of it rather than being the fundamental, sitting at the fundamental core at the heart of learning. The reading anthologies provide the hook for the learning objective, and how we use them is fully explained in the teacher's guide. So you can see here that we have Unit 1, numbers to 5, reading anthology for maths, and getting started, what you, the teacher, need to do. So you might display the book. This is available as an ebook if you want to display it on a whiteboard or use a projector. Display the book, pointing to the scene that show groups of 2s, 1s and 2s and 3s. Talk to the children about the groups, get the children to count or to point to the groups. So we've got 2 bears under a tree. We've got 2 bears fishing. We've got 1 bear holding a fishing net. So how you get started is explained in the teacher's guide. How you use this then as your hook for your maths lesson is explained. And this is just another example from English. As well as providing the hook, the reading anthology might also provide some of the actual learning content. And again, it's fully explained how you use it in the teacher's guide. So here you can see these sample pages from English provide your teaching and learning content. So ask, who is in the picture? What can mum do? What is mum wearing? And again, in science, all fully explained how you use it. So again, this page is part of the teaching content. So you might ask the students to identify the pictures on each page and talk about whether they're hot or cold, whether they're nice to touch, whether they're dangerous to touch. So all fully explained. I'm going to play you some audio now. I hope this works. We're going to look at this little story from English Foundation Plus, and I'm just going to play the audio. So Sumit, could you just let me know if the audio is working? That would be really helpful.
The picnic.
Yeah, it's working.
The rug. The basket. The cakes. The drinks. The wasps.
So we provide audio.
The picnic.
So great. So we provide audio for the English reading anthologies, the maths reading anthologies, and the science reading anthologies, if you wish to use them in the classroom to help students develop listening skills. Now, very importantly, in English, when we talk tomorrow, we'll be looking a little bit more at some of the thinking and working mathematically and thinking and working like a scientist that we cover. But very importantly in English, we start to bring in higher order thinking skills, even though these are very little children. So we do this by bringing in picture reading. This is why there isn't a word on every page. We're encouraging children to look at the pictures, to think about what is going on, and to describe what is going on. This is really important pre-reading skills that children need to start to develop. So they might say, Dad is putting the blanket on the ground, Mum is holding the basket, the little boy is kneeling on the ground, the little girl, the daughter, is standing next to Mum. We want children to be looking at pictures and seeing what's going on, because seeing what's going on and being able to describe what is going on is the very first step in developing critical thinking skills. And then you can see that in the teacher's guide, the last page is the wasps. The teacher is to ask the children what they imagine is going to happen next. Thinking about what happens next is the next step in developing critical thinking skills and starting to be able to read for inference, which is a big challenge by the time students get to their IGCSEs. So we're starting to introduce these early skills in English from Foundation in a very simple way. What do you think happens next? So the child might say, perhaps the family go home. Perhaps the family go somewhere else. Perhaps the family go inside. Perhaps someone gets stung. So you've got opportunities to start to bring in the skills students need for critical thinking right from a very young age in a way that is child appropriate, age appropriate, and child friendly. And the reading anthologies, as well as being used as part of the teaching content, as well as being used as the hook for the lesson that you're then going to build your maths or your science lesson or your English lesson on, can also be used for revision or for practice activities or for follow-up activities or for extension activities. There's a wide range of ways that the materials in the reading anthologies can be used, and these are all explained in the teaching guides. Then if we look at the activity books, there is an activity book for each term, for each subject. So activity book A for term 1, B for term 2, C for term 3. And the activity books provide a wide range of appropriate practice of core skills. And these core skills, these activity books allow children to develop some of their fine motor skills, things like holding a pencil or crayon or a pen. Allow teachers to see what children have understood, and also importantly provide a record that can be shared with parents, so parents can see what their child has been doing in class. Many teachers on our review panel told us that they want to embrace learning through play in the classroom, but that helping parents understand learning through play is one of the things they find very difficult. So the activity books have been developed in part to be a record for the parent, so the parent can see what learning through play is actually delivering. So when you open up the activity page, you'll see that there is a big bold heading for the child. We're not expecting the child to be able to read these, but we're providing them in child-friendly, large font, very colourful, with an accompanying mini beast icon for the child to help engage the child. You'll see that there is a much smaller heading for the teacher at the top of the page, which tells the teacher where you are in the course, so Unit 1. And you'll see that at the bottom of a page is a guidance box which summarises in very short, simple, concise wording what we're doing on this page, with an opportunity to put a date on it, with an opportunity for either the teacher or the parent or the child to provide feedback. So we'll say, trace the outline. So it's very clear what we're looking for this page to achieve. We'll say, find. We'll say, count and match. Very, very clear what is expected on each page. And the feedback box can be used in a number of ways. Not for formal feedback, but just for you, the teacher, to put a smiley face when the child has completed the page. Or you could think, I want the parents of this child to look at what their son or daughter has done on this page. And therefore you leave it blank and you ask the parent to initial it. So you know the parent has looked at that page. For example, a parent might say to you, why is my son not doing better with maths? Why is he still working with this level and not gone up to the next unit? You might want them to see their child's work and to look at it critically and to see why you've been saying this is why your son is working at that level. With other students, you may also decide, actually, I want you, the child, to tell me how you found that page. Did you enjoy it? Did you not enjoy it? Did you find it easy? And ask the child to draw a smiley face on it, or to draw a frown, or to draw a face with a straight mouth, not finding it easy or hard. And of course, you can put any stamp you want in there. So well done, we've got to the end of the week, everybody's finished, let's all put a star in our box because everybody's finished their work for the week. They can be used in a range of different ways. Now, the activity books are designed to help students practice and show what they know, and also to develop some of the fine motor skills that they're going to need for stage 1, colouring, tracing, independent pencil skills and writing. But the skills are built up step by step. We don't go straight in with the writing. We might start with some fairly freehand motor skills where children draw a picture of themselves. Then we might do some matching, so they're learning how to start to draw straight lines. And then we might do a find activity where they've got to hold the pencil and trace it along the worm lines leading to a second picture. Then we have trace and say. So we're building up these fine motor skills step by step, very gradually. We're not expecting to go straight in with tracing letters. So this is why this is important that we're able to show these books to parents, because parents will say, why is my child not tracing letters? They might not be ready. We might still be only working with wiggly lines or straight lines and doing freehand, drawing images of faces. All the way through, we're going step by step. You can see with maths here, I've put some examples from maths. We're doing some simple counting. Then we're doing count and match. And it's only after we've done some simple counting where we're looking and counting, perhaps using our fingers, and then we've done counting and matching. It's only after we've done that that we might do trace these numbers. You can see these pages are about the numbers 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So we count 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Then we count and match. So we're recognizing the characters, the digits, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Then we're doing tracing, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then we do some independent writing. So we're building up step by step, both the number counting skills and the fine motor skills going hand in hand. And the same in science, that we might do matching and drawing before we do any writing or any finer motor skills. And at the end of each activity book is an assessment record page, which provides a simplified version of the learning objectives that are given in full in the teacher's guide, with the opportunity for you, the teacher, to say 1, partially achieved, 2, achieved, or 3, extended. This is your formal record of achievement going back to parents at the end of each term. You don't have to use it if you don't need it, but we know that lots of teachers like to give parents a clear idea of how their children are doing in their kindergarten classroom. So all of this, I hope, and the record page where you've got an opportunity to get feedback from the parent, and so the parent understands what's being done on each of these pages, I hope will help you demonstrate to parents the value of using the Collins Foundation and Foundation Plus materials. Also, for teachers, we're also providing an introductory letter that you can put on your own headed note paper to send out to parents from Collins, which explains how parents can support their child in the kindergarten classroom. And then, of course, we also have a teacher's guide for each level, for each subject. And these are written to be easy to use, very clear. We worked long and hard with the maths teacher to make sure that the language is very accessible so that they can also be used by teaching assistants as well as teachers. So there's a lot in the teacher's guides. There is an introduction to the kindergarten classroom, which is the same in every subject, which talks about what the kindergarten child can do, the importance of play, and how to set up play stations in the classroom and what you use them for. There are subject-specific introductions that look at the concrete, pictorial, abstract approach to teaching maths in the kindergarten classroom, that explain how to teach phonics in the kindergarten classroom and what phonics we're teaching in the kindergarten classroom, and how to teach science, how we do this through discovery, through play. And then we've got we've got the teaching notes overview for each unit, which lists the learning outcomes, any curriculum links, the materials that are going to be needed. Then each learning session within each unit has how to get started, what to teach and how to teach it, lists the child-led learning through explore and play and discovery, explains how to use the activity books, how to use the reading anthologies, where to bring in songs and rhymes and games. The songs and rhymes that we're recommending are listed, the words are given in the teacher's guides, and we provide the audio. There are photocopiable masters, 2 types of photocopiable masters. There are photocopiable masters that provide additional activities and additional practice that you can give out to the children in your class. And there are photocopiable masters that provide you with manipulatives to use in the classroom for maths. So we provide all of the cards that you might want to print out and hold up to use in the maths classroom. They're also all fully downloadable and all available in colour as well. And then we provide guidance on how to assess in kindergarten. How we know as teachers that we shouldn't really be assessing kindergarten children, but we know that school principals are looking for some level of assessment. We know that school owners want some level of assessment. We know that parents want assessment. So we provide guidance on how assessment works in best practice in kindergarten, with some practical instructions and some very simple tracking grids for you to use over and above the very simple assessment activity pages that we have in the activity books. And the teacher's guides also provide some other things, particularly for maths. We have number fluency activities and games, so ideas for things that you can do in any odd 5 or 10 minutes that you might have in your classroom. If you are doing, if you find that you have time for an additional lesson for some reason that is unexpected, then you've got lots of additional content, lots of ideas for games and activities that you can bring in for revision and practice and for reinforcement. And also for maths, there are some slides for teaching sessions that are downloadable PowerPoints and some digital tools that you can use with your classroom, in your classroom for maths. So, are there any questions?
So we are looking at the chat box. There's just one question I think that you have already answered. We get teachers 10 hard copies.
So what was that question, Sumit?
Do we get the teacher's guide in the soft copy and hard copy?
Yes. Yes. So obviously there's a lot more available in the soft copy. So if you buy the teacher's guide, you want to go online and download everything that we provide as a soft copy. So in the printed copy is obviously all of the teaching guidance and teaching notes and all of the photocopiable materials. So the additional worksheets and the teacher resources for use in the maths classroom. If you go online, as well as having all of that to download, you'll also find for maths the PowerPoints, the PowerPoint slides, and you'll also find and all of the audio. So the audio for the reading anthologies and the audio for the songs. The online maths also gives you access to the digital tools. Those are not downloadable. You have to be online to use those because those are driven by HTML, so they're not easily downloaded.
Thank you, Dr. Elaine. No other questions so far. Okay, so there is one by Reshma ma'am. She asks if the annual planner will be given.
That's something I'm looking at the moment. It's difficult to provide an annual planner because we've planned it out, what you should be doing in each fortnight and in each lesson in each fortnight. So we've got all of that in the teacher's guide, but whether you follow it has to be up to you and how well your students are working and how well they are doing. In terms of a monthly planner, well, again, we've not worked in months, we've worked in terms and units and weeks. So you could turn it into a monthly planner if you wanted, but there is a point at which that granular level is something that you need to plan in your own school, and you need flexibility in your kindergarten classroom because you may have students who are struggling who need to do a little bit more with certain learning objectives before they're ready to move on to the next learning objectives. On evaluation, there's a lot of support for assessment and guidance on how to evaluate children's learning in the teacher's guide. That's all covered in the teacher's guides. How to evaluate and how to assess. And how to do the assessments is all covered in the teacher's guide. As you know, there is lots of debate nationally and internationally about how much children in kindergarten should be assessed. Best practice is that assessment needs to be very light touch and very observational, rather than giving them sheets of activities to complete and to be marked against. But we provide all of the guidance that you need on how to observe and assess and evaluate in these young kindergarten children in the teacher's guides. Were there some more questions that I've not seen that have pinged up?
So there is one more question by one of the teachers. The content that you have just talked about, is it applicable for the international board as well? Like,
we for the international baccalaureate, for the IB, yes, yes, it is. It's very applicable for IB, because as you know, in IB you have quite a loose framework within which to structure your own materials, and we've tried to make sure that we're providing enough support that if you want to use these materials within an IB school context, that you've got everything you need, or most of what you need, to be able to use these materials in IB schools. Don't forget that children in kindergarten, that the overarching aim of kindergarten is to start to get children reading, and to start to get children comfortable with some basic maths concepts, and to start to get children comfortable holding a pencil and starting to make letter shapes and number shapes, and that we want children leaving kindergarten able to read and write their own name, maybe able to read and write some basic words, able to count. All of these basic skills are common to Cambridge and to the International Baccalaureate.
okay. So there is one more by one of the teachers. Is it mandatory for a school to be following an IB or a Cambridge curriculum to be able to use the
No,
book?
no, you can, any school can use the Collins. While our intention is that students following these materials should be ready for stage 1, there is no doubt that there's an enormous commonality about what we want students at the end of kindergarten to be able to do. So this course is eminently followable if you're working in a CBSE school or an ICSE school, or if you're following an Australian curriculum or an American curriculum. The aim is, the fundamental aim of the English course is to have children reading using decoding with a focus on the phonemes s, t, n, m, p, I, a, which allows you to read hundreds of words by the end of the 2 years. You should be able to confidently read some very early reading books using those phonemes by the end of Foundation Plus. And we want children by the end of Foundation Plus Maths to be able to count up to 10 really confidently, and to do some basic sums and some basic subtraction, and to be able to count up to 20, possibly less confidently, but to have a basic understanding of numbers up to 20.
Okay.
Sumit, any more questions?
Yeah, I'm looking at the chat box. Okay, so there is one from Lakshmi ma'am. If we have any doubts in teacher's guide or any learning statement is not age appropriate, so how to approach and whom to approach?
If you think anything is not age appropriate, you need to let your local sales rep know, and they will get the information back to me. But we've tried really hard with our international review panel to make sure that everything is stage and age and learning stage and learning age appropriate. That's something that our international review panel really helped us out with.
Okay. All right, so I hope Reshma ma'am has got her answer. All right, so no more questions.
No, Sumit, there's one more question, which says that do we get introductory letter and newsletter to share them with parents for better understanding of the units and LO? So, Elaine, if you could address that.
Yeah, there's an introductory letter. At the moment, we're not doing a regular newsletter. We would need to see what the requirements for that were and how widely that would be used and what would need to be in it and what the requirement is for it. But there is an introductory letter. We also have an introduction for teachers on how to use the materials in classes where you have a very, very wide range of mixed abilities. If you have children who have different neurodevelopmental challenges, perhaps dyslexia, for example, we also have some guidance for teachers on how to use the courses in that kind of classroom.
All right, so one of the teachers raised her hand. Let me unmute. Yeah. So Sharon, ma'am, you can unmute yourself.
Good evening. I just wanted to know, like, if we're teaching in class, can we teach English, science, and math? Can it be linked together, or it's a separate subject entirely?
We've developed the materials as separate because, again, we did a lot of work with our review panels. So we've developed the materials as separate, but we have the underlying topics and underlying themes so that you can teach. You could teach English and maths and science in one lesson. That's why we have the underlying topics, to allow you to draw together where appropriate to draw together. And one of the documents that we've got that we share is a document that shows the learning objectives across the subjects. So what I highlighted in the presentation was the learning objectives vertically from Foundation to Foundation Plus for each of English, Maths and Science. But we have a different version of that that allows you to look across English, Maths and Science. So you can see in English Unit 1, you're doing these phonemes. In Maths Unit 1, you're doing these numbers, with the overarching topic that helps you understand how you can maybe draw things together if that's what you wish to do.
So, Dr. Elaine, one more question. The learning statements of Cambridge early years, are they equal to the learning objectives of Collins?
I can't answer that because I've never seen the Cambridge early learning statements. They won't share them with me, and our sales managers have so far not been able to get a copy for me to share with me. So you have those. So if you'd like me to check that, please send them to me and I will check that for you.
Okay, great.
What I've done is work from the basis of what's in the stage 1 learning objectives and the prior learnings that are explicitly listed in the frameworks for maths and English. But my authors have looked very critically at that, and they've identified what they believe to be very big gaps between what Cambridge say a child should have done in the prior learning, and a big gap between that and what they're going to have achieved by the end of stage 1. So our learning objectives fill in some of these gaps that we believe we have identified. Whether Cambridge in their early years framework have taken the same approach, I don't know without seeing what Cambridge have done. So if you're able to, please share it with me. That would be really helpful.
Thank you, Dr. Elaine. So participants, does anybody else have any other question? Okay, so planning is provided for the units. It would be great. Okay, so there is one more question by Lakshmi ma'am again. How do we share the child's progress with their parents?
Well, this is why we've got that that sheet at the end of each activity book. So the activity books, don't forget, are given out each term. So the child will work through it each term in class with you. And then at the end of the term, you can send the activity book home with the child. I'm just finding the page again. And I'll just share my screen again. There we go. So hopefully you can see that.
Yes.
Oh, it's gone.
No, it shows the end of the slideshow.
Okay, yep. So hopefully the activity book page at the end of each activity book, at the end of each term. There you go. Can you see that?
Yes.
Hopefully that page will contribute towards giving parents feedback. If you have formal meetings with parents, you might want to talk them through it. You might just want to send the activity book home. But also within the teacher's guide, there are charts for recording children's progress. Now, these are all downloadable, so you can download them and complete them for each child individually if that's what you wish to do. And you can, of course, share those with parents too. So there are lots of opportunities built in, and this assessment record page at the end of every activity book deliberately built in for you to share with the parent and for the teacher to sign and the parent to sign. You can see at the bottom is a box for them to sign and for them to date, and you could get parents to, you know, write comments on this as well. So we've tried to build in that opportunity to give parents feedback on how their children are doing every term.
Okay, great. So thank you so much, Dr. Elaine. It was really nice that you talked about the Collins Foundation and Foundation Plus. And I'm pretty sure that the knowledge that you have imparted to the participants will help them make their classroom teaching more impactful. And this is for all the participants. If you wish to know more about this session, we are going to upload it very soon on our YouTube channel. So you can go to our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/collinslearning. I can mention that in the chat box. And you will be able to see this.
Yeah, hang on. And also, Sumit, if I may just put my my email address up, if anybody can share the Cambridge Early Years Foundation Framework with me, then that's my email address. Please do. Okay. Elaine.Higgleton@harpercollins.co.uk.
I am putting that in the chat box.
Great, brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elaine. Thank you, Sumit.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine, for a wonderful webinar. I'm Manish Bagul, and I would like to make a note that there are few teachers whom we have found that they are not registered for the workshop. For you to get the certificates, may we request you to please write down your name, email ID, and contact number in the chat box, only for the non-registered participants. The rest, those who have registered themselves, be rest assured you will get your certificates. I'm only mentioning for the participants who have not registered for the workshop. Thank you.
There are one or two other questions in the chat box that we didn't deal with. Can I just run through those before we close down? We've got a few minutes, haven't we?
Yeah, sure. Please, Dr.
Yeah. Okay. So somebody says, any specific set of phonics suggestions like Letterland or Jolly Phonics? So we've used the very well established approach called Letters and Sounds, which allows children, which really focuses on helping children start to decode very, very quickly using the most common phonemes in the English language, which are st, n, p, m, I, a. So we focus on those 7. But within the guidance in the teacher's guide, we talk about all of the phonemes and how to introduce them. And there is also content in the teacher's guide and in the activity books for learning all of the letters of the alphabet, because we know learning the alphabet goes hand in hand with learning the phonemes. Now, if you find that your students need extra support for learning the phonemes, so if you find your students are ready to start to read very simple very simple books using these phonemes, then you want to go and look at Collins Big Cat. Letterland is quite out of date now. And Jolly Phonics is also quite out of date now. So what you want to be looking at is Collins Big Cat. And if you Google Collins Big Cat, you'll find a huge amount of information online. And with Collins Big Cat, we have a range of reading books that focus on exactly the same phonemes that are being introduced in Foundation and in Foundation Plus to support the development of those reading skills using just those phonemes. Now, also in the English course, as you'd expect, in the summaries at the beginning of each unit, we talk about the high frequency words that children will also be learning to read. So the and and mum and dad. And we also list the interest words that are introduced in each of the units. So while the focus is very much on getting children to start to read using s, a, t, n, I, p, we also cover other phonemes, letters of the alphabet, so children can learn to write their own letters, and also sight words and high frequency interest words. So I hope that's helpful.
Thank you, Dr. Elaine. So teachers have mentioned the YouTube channel link in the chat box. Just a second, this is for everybody. Yes, so it's there in the chat box. You can click on this YouTube link and you can find this session on YouTube channel as well. So we'll upload it very soon. And in case if you have any further questions, you can mention that and we'll take the questions from there.
And thank you to Om for putting up that web link for Big Cat Phonics for letters and sounds.
So Dr. Elaine, with your permission, can we have the closing remarks? Okay.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending the session. And I'm pretty sure that the knowledge that Dr. Elaine has imparted will help the teachers run their classes more smoothly, both in offline as well as online mode of education. So with this, we would like to wind up the session. And before we do that, a request to everybody, please be safe and avoid going outside. Please stay indoors. And COVID-19 is not over yet, so please be healthy and stay fit. So thank you so much, Dr. Elaine, for your precious time.
Thank you. Pleasure. Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Elaine.